maybe you're here again because you didn't learn enough, I don't know, but I really enjoy this. I take this very seriously, what I do, but I also try and create those heartwarming moments for everybody. Please come. We probably won't have time to do questions because I'm trying to include a lot of information. I do talk very fast, sorry, but I'm going to jump right in and ask this question of myself. Do I really believe it's just stuff? And the answer is absolutely not. But here's what I'm going to say. There was somebody that was here last fall, and I remember they were sitting in the front row. Maybe they're here again today, I don't know. I'm not looking to call them out and embarrass them in any way because, quite frankly, I didn't even know their name. But they left me a note at my table after and said, it's not just stuff. And I wish that they would have just come up to me and talked to me because I do understand. I take this very seriously, and I understand that you've probably spent your entire life collecting all of this stuff, and then suddenly somebody like me comes in and says, you've got to get rid of it all. And that's not what I do, and any good professional organizer should not be telling you to get rid of anything. We are there to guide you as best as we possibly can and encourage you to consider the possibilities. The reason that I put all of these pictures out is because I believe that there is room till the day we die to always have memories that do take up a little bit of physical space in our lives. In my case, I actually have a Tootsie Roll that was in my mother's car, 2005. It is petrified. Don't try and eat it. I promise it will break every tooth in your mouth. But I keep it there because I see it almost daily. And it makes me smile. It makes me happy. The same reason that, and if I would bring it around, I'm wearing my mom's wedding bands because it makes me feel like she's here with me. And she was my inspiration. So again, my point is not to tell you you have to get rid of everything, but to think more intentionally as you are going through this process yourself. And this is where I really would encourage you to read this and think about that our stuff really is a burden. I had a client this past week who happens to be Jewish, and I am Jewish too, and we were talking about this, and her comment to me was there's a prayer in Jewish life that we say called the Kaddish when somebody dies, and it's a mourner's prayer, and every religion has mourner's prayers, right? She literally says the Kaddish when she lets things go. She feels like it helps her let go because she understands it no longer is here for her. It's not bringing her joy, but she's enjoyed it all of her life, and now it's time to let it go. And I think that's just a beautiful way of honoring that. But we have the dilemma, right? We all have probably more than we need in our lives. Raise your hand if you don't think you have too much stuff. Right? Nobody in this room, right? But it's very possible that you have so much that it's paralyzing you and you're afraid to even start the process. So that's why we go through this presentation to try and encourage you. But remember, if everything is valuable, nothing is valueless. Does that resonate? Because if there's one thing you should take away from this presentation, it's that. I really, really, really would encourage you to think about that. But why is it so hard? We have emotional attachment to things. We have more years behind us than ahead of us. I'm 63. I promise you, if I live to be 126, God help this planet. But, we do have more years behind us, so it's hard to let go of the things that we've collected all of our life. Maybe you just don't care, and that's okay, and you're going to leave it for your kids. And what do you think your kids are going to do with it? We all know, right? Some people already have cognitive decline. That makes it very hard to wrap your head around this process. It gets very overwhelming. Some people have anger. Maybe they lost a loved one and they're angry that they were left with all of this stuff. And then there's the guilt. And I was talking to somebody earlier about the guilt. I don't know if they're in the room right now. But that's a big thing, that if you were given a lot of things throughout your life, if you inherited a lot of things throughout your life from relatives, you're probably feeling a little guilty about keeping them. Our kids are not feeling guilty. Why should you? Really, seriously, if you don't enjoy it, if it's not serving a purpose, please stop feeling guilty. But where do you begin? If you die tomorrow, what's going to happen to all your stuff? You can't take it with you, right? I love that. I've had this in my presentation for years. But it's true, right? Like we literally are clinging to our stuff to the day we die. I tell the story sometimes of my grandmother clutching $1 bills on her deathbed. Not kidding. And I loved her, but she really thought she could take it with her. So it's time to let go of things, right? And the easy things that I think people can really start with are photographs of people you don't even know, right? All those dark pictures. I have a friend who took thousands of pictures when we went to Israel when we were 18 and didn't realize she had the lens cap on her camera the entire summer. Israel by night was her photo album. Anything broken or damaged, there are ways to repurpose broken and damaged things, but you have to be very intentional about it. Broken china, you can make into a mosaic or something like that, but don't keep the stuff unless you're going to really intentionally use it again in some way. Multiples, who has more than 2 sets of sheets for your bed? More than 2. I only have 1, and the reason I only have 1 is because I hate folding sheets. Hate that. So I wash them, dry them, and put them back on my bed. That's assuming that I actually remember that I put them in the wash at 7 in the morning when I'm running out of the house, and when I come running back in at 9 o'clock at night, I'm usually going to my computer. Suddenly it's midnight, and I go into my bedroom, and it's not made. So I have to go back up to the laundry. Old papers and magazines. If you've got all those National Geographics, again, there's a way that you can maybe preserve the memory. A man just told me a couple weeks ago that his father had a big collection, and he felt guilty about letting it go. I said, well, why don't you just take some pictures of your favorite covers and make a collage and print it out and hang it. That way you can still see some of the memory, and it's still going to make you smile, just like my Tootsie Roll does, just like the ring does, right? You gotta let go of guilt. It's going to always be the thing that really, really, really slows people down. So what's the number 1 downside to not downsizing now? Because I really believe that you have to start sooner rather than later. You're gonna run out of time. And it happens to everybody, and I get the panic calls either from the senior themselves who's suddenly has to move to senior living, and the family doesn't know what to do. And I just really want to encourage you to take a couple of minutes every day or once a week or anything, that just go to the junk drawer. That's always a good place to start. There are more downsides to not. People do get depressed, they get anxious, some people lose sleep, memory loss because there's just too much stuff in your visual space, and that starts to create cognitive issues for people. It's very stressful, but there are upsides to downsizing now. Improve safety. I'm going through this right now with my father. He's turning 90. He's using a walker. He should not be living in a townhome with stairs, but he's insisting on it. Even his couch isn't in the right place anymore. And if you've got piles of stuff everywhere, that is going to eventually be a safety hazard for you. So you really have to start thinking about that before it gets too hard. It will reduce your cognitive overload. We've already sort of touched on that, and mental fatigue. If you look at a room on any daily basis and it overwhelms you, again, just start with like one little space, and that will really help prevent the overwhelm. If you're aging in place right now, but you may eventually have to transition to senior living, downsizing before you have to officially downsize, it really does make it easier. Right, Ann? Ann's one of my clients. And we are working on that. Slowly, right? It's a slow process, but that's okay. We're working on it. And it also gives you the ability to really focus on the things that are really important, right? if you don't have so much of that visual clutter everywhere. So there are do's and don'ts to starting the process. The do's are find your low-hanging fruit, the really easy stuff that you can pick and identify really quickly and just say, okay, I don't need that anymore. I don't want that anymore. Allow time to reminisce. I think that's a really important thing. It's never my job to tell you that you shouldn't have time to share the stories. And some of the stories are heartbreaking that I hear, but some of them are really heartwarming. And it hurts me that those stories are potentially going to die with the person because they're not sharing them with other people or writing them down in thoughtful and intentional ways. Compromise if you have a partner. How many people came up to me already today and said, well, my partner won't get rid of anything? And that's a tough situation to be in. But you have to find ways to compromise with each other, especially if you're going from a big house, 4,000 square feet, to 5, 6, 7, 800 square feet in any type of senior living. We cannot move the walls. We can't raise the ceiling and we can't lower the floor. So you really are going to have to compromise at some point. One of the things that organizers do, no matter what the age is, we always come in and do the initial sort so that we can truly see what the different categories are. And sometimes you're going to be shocked to see that you actually have 14 spatulas. Why do you have 14 spatulas? Probably because, as one client told me, she uses them as fly swatters, and they ended up in every other room except the kitchen, right? It is a good idea, but nevertheless, sorry. Why isn't this? Okay, the don'ts to downsizing, don't worry about the unknown. I know it's scary. We're all scared of getting older. We don't know what's going to happen to us, but try not to focus on that. I know we live in a crazy world these days, and there's so much that we're being bombarded with. Don't make this one more thing that's going to scare you. Please don't put your stuff in storage. Please, please, please. Temporarily, it's okay, but I just spent a day at the woman actually has 4 storage units, 10 by 10s. Most of the boxes in those storage units have not been even opened or looked at in 17 years. And it wasn't always in storage, but for I'm going to say half that time. That's a lot of money. You could go probably around the world on the amount of money that you spend on storage. Don't get caught up in the minutia, meaning, look for the low-hanging fruit, and then once you've sort of gotten your, if you believe in science, I know that's kind of hard these days in our country, but, I still believe in science, and your endorphins are going to get fired up by you starting with the easy stuff. So don't get overwhelmed by the harder stuff. Start, which is the minutia. Start with the bigger stuff that's really easy to identify. Don't overvalue what you think you can sell. I know it's really hard because, again, you spent money on this, you saved it all these years. I promise you, nobody's going to buy your Beanie Baby collection that you have probably had for 30 years since the bubble burst. I had one client, I don't think he's here today, he had a Bill Cosby album that we came across 5, 6 years ago. It was after Bill Cosby sort of went out of favor. There's no value to that anymore. My grandfather actually was a coin collector, and he was able to retire on his coin collection, but that was 40, 50 years ago. It's just not the same today. And don't try and do it all at once, right? But don't procrastinate. So if you're ready to begin, here are some suggestions. If you think that there's going to be so much stuff that you need any type of junk removal, there are a lot of different options. The cheapest one is probably putting it in your garbage can 1 bag at a time every week, right? And then there's something called a bag stir. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's 5 feet by 8 feet. It sits at the end of your driveway, you fill it up, and then the waste management comes and takes it away. It's about $175 to $200. Then there are obviously dumpster companies. I love Been There, Dump That. They have a Boulder franchise. They are so reliable, very competitive. The North American marketing manager actually was given my name by the Boulder franchise owner and said, you really need to talk to this woman. She's always promoting us. And we ended up doing not one, but 2 podcasts together, which was kind of cool. I mean, you know, he's in Canada. So funny that he wanted to do it, but it was really a pleasure. Get help. Somebody this morning said that they are helping a neighbor right now. There are always people that are willing to help you. You can obviously hire professionals too. And then gather your supplies to really start separating things into categories so that you can really be very intentional. Paperwork. So many people mentioned that today. There are free shred events that are happening all spring. A lot of real estate offices do them, so you know, look for those. I think we just posted 3 of them happening in the next month. One in Westminster, Brighton, and I can't remember where the 3rd one is. But you can do a simple Google search and find those free shred days. But if you're still feeling anxious about how to begin, how to eat an elephant. One bite at a time, right? We've already talked about that. Don't try and take on too much. It will always be your downfall, okay? And then I came across a Chinese proverb recently, and maybe some of you have heard this. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, right? The second best time is now. Start now. Even if you're not moving out of your home, please start now, slowly, intentionally, just like I'm doing. But why hire an organizer? I mean, obviously, if you just can't do it yourself, right? We see the piles, and we all know the piles: the keep pile, the toss pile, the give to family and friends pile, the donate pile. But the last one, we're back to the give, right? It's hard. I mean, I'm not kidding. This is hard. For those of us that live in Boulder or in the area, we're very lucky here to have literally right down the street resource, EcoCycle, hazardous waste, art parts, right? All of these are options. Home Ahead Boulder, if you've never heard of them, they are a nonprofit that actually, they set up the previously unhoused, anybody that was homeless, and put them in an apartment, do job training for a year. But they need things because they've been homeless. They don't have anything. So if you can find a way in your heart to give things, there are plenty of organizations in our community that would be happy to take them. The hardest things to get rid of, though, are big, bulky oak furniture and mattresses. Some of that just has to go to the dump, unfortunately. It's really, really sad. Best Buy will take all of your old electronics for free. Except for computer and TV screens. I happen to be a member though, so I can take them for you and just charge a small drop-off fee. But EcoCycle will also take electronics. The vast majority of things like the computers and TVs and stuff like that, they do weigh and they charge more. But they also, I think they charge $8 a vapor box, and is it $8 about? There is a $3 fee to get into EcoCycle if you've never been there, but they will take cardboard, metal scraps, plastic, books. They're a great resource, and I really highly encourage. And if you need somebody to come and pick all that stuff up, I can always find somebody for you. But why hire me, right? Anne literally said I'm cheaper than her therapist, and I love that she thinks that way, right? All joking aside, this is my why. I had grandparents that I absolutely loved. They were amazing. I would have done anything in the world for them. I miss them to this day. But I got to really respect and appreciate watching them go through their own aging journey. And I think that's why I connect so well with seniors. And even though I am considered a senior at this point, I still really, really, really love working with the seniors. And these are so many of the memories. I mean, there's a story behind every single one of these pictures, including that one right there of the two women eating the cookies and the dog next to it with the bag of cookies. My mother was a great baker. I do this thing every year on the anniversary of her death called Have a Cookie and Smile Day. It was my way of making sure that my kids would always remember my mother. So again, this isn't something that takes up a lot of space in my life, but I still do it to preserve the memory. And people that know me, there's a lot of people that know me in this room at this point. I get orders for cookies quite a bit, and I usually donate the money to a client that doesn't have the means to pay themselves. And Michael, who's back there, my marketing guy, he interviewed one of our clients. He interviews quite a bit. He interviewed Ann and several other clients, and because we like sharing the stories too. It's not just about getting rid of the stuff. We really want to share these stories with everybody. I met somebody a few years ago that he does treks to Nepal. And when he asked, or Patagonia and places like that, and when he asked me what I did for a living, I said, well, in the context of this conversation, I'm a Sherpa. And he's like, you're a Sherpa, really? I'm like, well, you know, I take people up the proverbial mountain of clutter, right? And I carry that burden. I literally carry your burden for you as much as I possibly can, because this is your journey. This is your decluttering and downsizing journey. I've done this hundreds, thousands of times at this point. But I want you to get to the top. I want you to get to the point of clarity and less chaos, right? The climb is hard, but when you get to the top, it's very, very free. It really is. But the struggle's real, and me and my team, I have a great team of people that I can bring in when the projects are big enough. I have a ridiculous amount of energy. My eyes are wide open. I see everything. And I see things that I can't unsee. I promise you. I have stories. Happy to share them with you. Give me a call. We figure out a place for everything, especially as you're going to be moving and you don't really know where everything's going to fit. We're very compassionate, but we have to be ruthless, or what's the point of hiring us, right? I mean, there has to be that point where we want you to hear your stories, we want you to feel good about the process, but please don't waste your time and energy and money unless you're really ready to do this. And no judgment, zero judgment. And you should not feel any shame or embarrassed by this either. I know there are a lot of people who feel like they can't bring anybody into their home. One second. But we are not there to judge you at all. Just let me get through it, I promise. If you can't afford it though, please still contact me. There are some resources that are not as plentiful as they used to be, but I am getting more and more involved in a nationwide nonprofit called Safe Moves for Seniors, and we're trying very hard here in our local area to get the donations and whatnot. I've put them in touch with Been There, Done That, who is now going to be offering free dumpsters when we have a client that can't afford it, which I think is amazing. There are some programs in the state that might provide you, especially if you're on Medicaid. I don't know if anybody is. Sometimes you can get money that way. And then this is my parting advice, and it goes back to, we really have to understand and embrace the fact that, yes, we had all of these things in our life for a long time, but it's really time to let them go, but that doesn't mean that we have to let go of the memories. And that's it. Did I make it?
You did.
Okay.
You did a great job. Let's thank Beth so much for her wonderful information. Great presentation.